Hello, I'm Conrad Bain. Tonight on Diff'rent Strokes, we're starting a special two-part show on a very sensitive and important subject.
A historic two-part Family Ties episode, My Name is Alex. Alex grapples with intense guilt and grief after the sudden death of my best friend Greg. Through a series of flashbacks and a raw emotional monologue in a therapy session, Alex confronts his feelings of loss, questioning his beliefs and priorities.
To a friend.
No, I should have been with Greg. I should have been sitting right next to him. I want answers, okay? Because I can't go on like this. Why am I alive? Why am I alive?
The groundbreaking episode, featuring a minimalist stage design, dives deep into themes of mortality, identity, and the fragility of life. It's a poignant departure from the show's usual tone. We also dipped into alcoholism when Tom Hanks was a guest. In the episode Say Uncle, Uncle Ned's struggle with alcoholism comes to light when his behavior spirals out of control, culminating in a shocking moment where he slaps me. The episode delivered a powerful message about addiction to drinking and the importance of seeking help.
Hey, Uncle Ed, don't do that. Hey, give me those. Leave me alone. Leave me alone! What the hell are you doing? I don't know. I'm sorry. Sorry, Alex.
Lastly, we'll never forget the episode that looked into sexual harassment. Give your uncle a kiss. Mallory is uncomfortable when a family friend, Uncle Arthur, makes inappropriate advances toward her.
I apologize for jumping to any conclusions.
Your apology is totally unnecessary.
So is yours.
No hard feelings?
No hard feelings. No.
The episode addresses the importance of speaking up against unwanted behavior and setting personal boundaries. So here I am to discuss this episode that Gordon Jump was in, that tackled the tender subject of pedophilia. This would be the Bicycle Man episode in Diff'rent Strokes when Gordon played Mr. Horton, the bicycle shop owner. It was a two-part episode which some say is the most shocking TV episode ever. So Conrad Bain, who played Mr. Drummond, had to give cold openings at the beginning of each. Now, I won't describe what Diff'rent Strokes is all about because I'd say we all probably know by now. Let's just say the show tackled issues like Family Ties did as well. The show dove into topics like kidnapping, like in the Sam's Missing episode.
You step out of line just once. Can you remember what I told you I would do? I will kill your parents, Sam.
But...
You hear me and understand me.
Yes, sir.
Another special impactful episode was the two-part Hitchhikers episode, when Arnold and Kimberly go shopping for Mr. Drummond's birthday present and face a terrifying ordeal when a seemingly friendly man lures them into danger. The episodes tackle the dangers of trusting strangers and emphasize the importance of safety and awareness, not to mention kidnapping and sexual harassment. Now let's get to a very tender subject, an episode that Conrad Bain had to give a cold opens for each, basically urging parents to watch with their kids and a warning that the subject was tender.
Hello, I'm Conrad Bain. Tonight on Diff'rent Strokes, we're starting a special two-part show on a very sensitive and important subject. We urge families, children and parents alike, to watch this informative episode and then discuss the problem presented, which is of deep concern to all of us. Thank you.
This was the iconic Bicycle Man episode when WKRP and Cincinnati's general manager, Gordon Jump, played Mr. Horton, the Bicycle Man. Gordon said this was his most painful, yet rewarding roles to play, for the message that it sent. After Mr. Bain tells parents and kids to watch the show together, the first episode begins with the Drummonds walking into the shop and Arnold's calling for the owner. Mr. Drummond decides to buy Arnold a bike for his birthday, so of course he's overcome with joy.
The man's name is Mr. Horton.
Right. Hey, Mr. Bicycle Man!
So the episode starts off with no surprises. The Drummonds visit the bicycle shop one morning, and Mr. Drummond agrees to buy a new bike for Arnold as a birthday present. So the family converses and waits for Mr. Horton so they can get a new bike for Arnold. Mr. Horton comes out and is shown as a goofy and likable guy to begin with, making the whole family laugh, Mr. Drummond and Arnold in particular.
Hey, were you in the circus?
As a matter of fact, I was. They used to bill me as the human cannonball. Until the ball got too big for the cannon.
So far, Mr. Horton's seeming like a really nice guy. Nothing to worry about, right? Arnold gets his new bike. He's overcome with joy and gives a big hug to Mr. Drummond and then a big hug to Mr. Horton. After Mr. Drummond buys the bike, Mr. Horton makes a deal with Arnold if he spreads his flyers around school that Arnold can have a new radio.
You could pass these flyers out for me next week at school. I'd give you this handlebar radio for your bicycle.
The difference between Family Ties and Diff'rent Strokes episodes like these is that all of our episodes were in front of a live audience. Diff'rent Strokes wasn't so. There may be a few laughs in here that may sound out of place.
What's the old saying? You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours.
You keep coming up with these presents, you could scratch me all over.
So the next day at school, Arnold asks his best friend Dudley to help him pass out the flyers, and they give out as many as they can. In the next scene, a kid walks out of the store with Horton, and he says a line to the kid that will be a familiar one later in the episode.
Give you all that candy. As a matter of fact, why don't you just make it our little secret that you was even here? Huh?
Arnold's back in the store and explains how he and Dudley got all the flyers out. Then comes a scene that wouldn't quite work on Family Ties. Why, you ask? Because the joke here would probably get laughs a little different with a live crowd than with a laugh track. Check it out.
Hundreds of kids stampeding into my shop. They're buying everything in sight. They're buying the bicycles. They're buying the posters. They can't stop buying. Now they're buying my clothes. They're buying my socks. They're buying my shirt. They're buying my pants.
You better buy a barrel before they buy your underwear.
Yeah, I really don't picture a Family Ties crowd laughing quite like that. Anyway, Mr. Horton then invites Arnold to the back of the shop, and Arnold is amazed. He sees everything he needs to have fun. Games, a sofa, a fridge, you name it. A key part of this scene is when Mr. Horton offers Arnold some ice cream, a few more awkward jokes.
You better eat it before it melts.
Oh, don't worry. The way I eat it, it won't have a chance to melt. My tongue's faster than a hummingbird's wings.
The hummingbird's wings.
There's a familiar line Mr. Horton would say again, the same one before Arnold entered.
Maybe it would be best if you didn't even mention, you know, that you came back here and that I gave you all this ice cream before dinner. Why don't we just make it our little secret, huh?
You know something, Mr. Horton? You're sneaky.
Sneaky.
So far, Mr. Horton is looking creepy, but this is just the beginning. So the next day, Mr. Horton sees Arnold and Dudley show up to the store again. He's getting even creepier, as the viewers see him preparing ahead of time and laying out some dirty magazines on the coffee table, a lot different than some ice cream. Horton says they're comic books, but the boys are completely surprised, seeing something they've never seen before. Horton then goes on to try and calm the boys down by reasoning with them on why the pictures are okay and not to think it's wrong.
That there's a good reason for looking at the human body and admiring it. It's a work of art.
Now the creepiness goes to another level, and Horton goes on to describe things he does.
You can just have an awful lot of fun with your clothes off. Unless, of course, you live at the North Pole and are going to freeze your tush off.
What kind of fun?
Well, for instance, they're skinny dipping. Either you guys ever go skinny dipping?
Even showing pictures of himself to the boys. Mr. Horton goes on to offer Dudley wine, and Arnold feels they're too young. He proceeds to pressure Dudley, who in turn pressures Arnold.
Too young? Huh? Do you realize that in France, everybody drinks wine, including kids much younger than you?
Yeah, Arnold, don't you know anything?
I'll bet Dudley there takes a sip every now and then, huh?
Me? Yeah, right. As a matter of fact, my dad lets me have a little sip on special occasions.
Conrad Bain told parents to watch with their kids for several reasons. One was because this also started to turn into a peer pressure episode as well. Pressure on Arnold.
Come on, Arnold. Don't act like a premature kid. Okay, I'll have just a sip. I hate to see my friends drink alone.
No, that's what I can do.
This brought us to the last scene of the first episode when the so-called Tarzan photo shoot began. Mr. Horton told the boys to pose for the Tarzan photo shoot in the jungle. Dudley as Tarzan. And then the boys posing for the camera.
Guys, we're just going to have a great time together this afternoon. Huh? All right, let's see those poses some more. That's the way to go. You, Dudley, pounding on the chest.
Episode 2 began right back in the jungle.
I guess I'm the first semi-bald king of the jungle. All right, why don't you hop on my back here?
Then we see a familiar pattern from what we saw last episode. Mr. Horton offers some wine to the boys again, and peer pressure shows up again.
No thanks. I'd rather get bitten on the teetsy.
But Mr. Horton uses Dudley as the pressure again, and Arnold is convinced to have another drink.
I have some more. You gonna be a chicken, Arnold?
After that, Mr. Horton asks the boys if they want to jump on his trampoline. Like 99% of kids, they are excited to, but the catch is he doesn't have one. It happens to be his bed in the back. So they start jumping anyway. In the midst of it all, Mr. Drummond happens to walk into the store. After seeing him through the peephole, Mr. Horton is a little worried, so he tells the boys to be quiet so he can take care of business. Horton wants to get rid of Mr. Drummond as quick as possible while he came in to pay for Arnold's bike, but he's talking longer than expected. While they are speaking, Arnold and Dudley get curious and look themselves. When they see Mr. Drummond out there, they decide to head out before they get themselves in trouble. So they pack up and head on out. Once Mr. Drummond is finally gone, Mr. Horton closes up and heads to the back, expecting to see the boys, and is surprised to see the room empty.
Okay, fellas, I got rid of the... Arnold! Dudley!
When Arnold gets home, Willis and Kimberly are wondering why he's chewing such a big wad of chewing gum. Then they both smell the wine smell in Arnold's breath, concerned for their brother.
Everybody drinks wine in France.
You're not in France.
And if Dad finds out that you've been drinking, you're gonna wish you were in Siberia.
So the two offer their advice, and Kimberly says to gargle some Listerine on the rocks. When Mr. Drummond comes home, he wants his usual greeting from Arnold, but of course Arnold's trying to avoid him.
Hey, Arnold, where you going? Wait a minute. I haven't hugged my kid today.
Dad, I'm getting too old for that mush.
The next day, Arnold felt a little different from his talk with Kimberly and Willis, so he had a different mindset. But then Mr. Horton discussed going into the back again, luring Dudley in with cartoons and snacks. Now, I don't know what Horton was referring to here, but I hope he just got back from a bakery.
See some cartoons? Come on, Arnold. I don't know.
Oh, that's all right, Dudley. That just means that there's more, Boston cream pie for you and me.
Boston cream pie?
So, as promised, Mr. Horton serves their Boston cream pies and puts on cartoons. But to their surprise, they are adult cartoons. This is when Arnold gets very uncomfortable and is ready to leave. So he gets ready to leave. But Dudley doesn't seem to have an issue, so he stays.
Listen, Dudley, don't worry about Arnold. We can have a lot more fun without him. Hmm?
In the next scene, Dudley's father shows up at the Drummond household thinking that Mr. Drummond gave Dudley some wine, and the Drummonds are under the impression that Dudley's father gave Arnold some wine. But of course, they both believe one another and want to get to the bottom of it. This is when Kimberly and Willis had to speak up.
Arnold. Well, obviously, Arnold and Dudley are experimenting with alcohol. I don't like that.
Well, neither do I. They're still babies.
Well, it looks like the babies have gone from the nipple straight to the ripple.
When Arnold tells them that Dudley is still at the shop, alone with Mr. Horton, this highly worries them all. Mr. Drummond wants to go to the store, and Willis wants to accompany him, but Mr. Drummond decides to call the police and Dudley's father. So the police and Mr. Drummond all show up to the shop together, confronting Mr. Horton. From here on out, the episode becomes highly serious, showing that child molestation is nothing to be taken lightly, as well as the effects peer pressure and the importance of parents and children opening up to each other.
You can't go back there!
Dudley! Dudley, where are you?
Then they find Dudley in the bathroom, dazed. Then Dudley's father comes to the back of the store, and eventually Dudley speaks up and says that he was given a pill and what happened, initially afraid to tell. This is an important scene for kids and parents to show that kids should never be afraid to open up and tell others what has happened, and for parents to trust them and not think it is their fault. A very emotional moment for Dudley and his father. This is one of the biggest moments where parents and kids needed to watch the show together, as Conrad Bain mentioned in the cold opens in the beginning of the episode when Dudley opened up and Dudley's father spoke to him after hearing the news.
It's not your fault, son. And I don't blame you. And I'm not going to punish you. I love you. Do you understand?
The last scene takes place in the living room with the Drummonds and police officer, all discussing the lessons learned and myths of pedophilia and crimes related to it. 3 key points made in the conversation were from the policeman pointing out that it's important that Dudley's father believes him and didn't put any blame on him. Support is always key. Secondly, it's important that someone always call the authorities first to get evidence and not confront a perpetrator on their own. Lastly, Willis brought up how he was surprised that Mr. Horton was gay, but the policeman pointed out that someone like Mr. Horton isn't always gay, so that's a common misconception. Todd Bridges said himself that this was a tough episode to film since he was unfortunately abused by his publicist during the show. I still feel guilty for not believing Mallory about Uncle Arthur now. After watching this episode, Dudley's dad did what was right and believed him. But I guess that was a different situation since we knew Uncle Arthur our whole life. Still, in both cases, it was shown how important it is to speak up. Whether it was Mallory speaking up to me, Dudley opening up to his dad, Arnold speaking to his dad, Kimberly and Willis speaking up to Mr. Drummond, or Dudley's dad opening up to his son, and Mr. Drummond contacting the authorities. The episode may have been awkward, but it was very special in teaching kids to set boundaries to strangers and families, to open up pathways. Setting boundaries to strangers and opening pathways to family and friends are what these episodes teach. Though awkward at a few points, it taught some good lessons and ended on a sweet point.
I'm mighty proud of you, son.
You know, I didn't like the things Mr. Horton was trying to do in the bicycle shop, but some hugs and kisses are still okay.
Well, I'm glad I could join you at Bailey's Quarter for this special episode of Diff'rent Strokes. And the guest role of WKRP and Cincinnati's general manager Arthur Carlson, Gordon Jump, as Mr. Horton the Bicycle Man. Thank you for your time, and please click on the like and subscribe for more Bailey's Quarter specials.